All right, well, then let's talk about another superstar who's in even more desperate situation, and that's Sidney Crosby with the Pens. They're trying to avoid being swept by the Flyers. Last night, a penalty fest in that game, including one that was called on Crosby for embellishment. It negated a power play chance. In Pittsburgh, absolutely nobody is happy about it.
Did you get any kind of explanation on the dust-up between Sid and Hathaway?
No, they didn't give me much on that. We don't have a single embellishment all year. Sidney Crosby doesn't have an embellishment in 21 seasons. So, sticks in his face. They take both of them. Oh, I disagree on that strongly.
Something just happened in the NHL that almost never happens. And it involves one of the most respected players in hockey history. Sidney Crosby, a name known for discipline, just got hit with a shocking penalty for the first time in over 20 years. But what made things explode?
Well, let me say this first of all. I think the coach summed it up best. Crosby's been a class act in the National Hockey League, and the city of Pittsburgh obviously is very proud of him. He doesn't embellish. I think the referees might have overreacted on that call last night, but hey, it is what it is.
Was Wayne Gretzky stepping in and completely disagreeing? Now, fans are asking, did the NHL just make a huge mistake? This story begins in a heated playoff game between the Pittsburgh Penguins and the Philadelphia Flyers. These two teams already have a strong rivalry, so emotions were high from the start. Every hit, every pass, and every call mattered. But then, something unexpected happened that changed the entire mood of the game. Sidney Crosby, the captain of the Penguins, was involved in a play that led to a very rare call. The referees gave him an embellishment penalty. This means they believe Crosby exaggerated contact to draw a penalty. But here's the shocking part. This was Crosby's first embellishment penalty in over 20 years of his NHL career. Fans were confused immediately. Crosby is not known for diving or faking. In fact, he has built his reputation on skill, leadership, and toughness. So when the penalty was called, many people started questioning it right away. The moment quickly went viral. Replays were shared everywhere. Some fans said Crosby did nothing wrong. Others tried to defend the referees. But the biggest reaction came from a name that carries massive weight in hockey, Wayne Gretzky. Wayne Gretzky, often called the greatest hockey player of all time, spoke about the incident and made his opinion very clear. He did not agree with the call. Gretzky explained that players like Crosby do not usually try to fake penalties. He suggested that the situation may have been misunderstood by the officials. As the debate kept growing, the Penguins' side of the story became even more important. Head coach Dan Muse stepped forward and made one thing very clear. The team fully supports Sidney Crosby. He did not hold back when talking about the situation. Instead, he calmly explained that Crosby plays the game the right way and has always respected the rules. This kind of support matters a lot, especially in a high-pressure playoff series. When a coach stands behind his captain, it sends a strong message to both the players and the fans. It shows trust, it shows belief, and in this case, it also showed that the Penguins did not agree with the referee's decision. At the same time, fans across the hockey world continued to react. Social media was filled with opinions, slow-motion replays, and heated arguments. Some people said the NHL needs to review how embellishment penalties are called. Others believe the referees made a quick judgment under pressure. But one thing was clear. This was no longer just a small moment in a game. It had turned into a major talking point across the league. What makes this situation even more interesting is Crosby's reputation. Over the years, he's been known as a player who competes hard but stays focused on the game. He is not the type of player who looks for easy calls. That is why this penalty felt so unusual to many fans. And when you combine that with Wayne Gretzky's reaction, the story becomes even more powerful. Gretzky is not someone who speaks without thinking. So when he questions a call, it makes people stop and think. It adds weight to the idea that something might not have been right. Now, the NHL faces a tough situation. They have to protect the integrity of the game while also making sure their officials are making fair decisions. Moments like this can affect how fans see the league. If trust starts to fade, it becomes a bigger problem than just one penalty. Looking ahead, all eyes will be on how the NHL responds. Will they address the controversy? Will there be any explanation? Or will they move forward and hope the noise fades away? For Sidney Crosby and the Penguins, the focus remains on winning. Playoff hockey does not stop for controversy, but at the same time, moments like this stay in people's minds. Because in the end, this was not just a penalty. It was a moment that made the entire hockey world stop and question everything. A single punch changed the pace of the game in seconds. In the middle of a heated playoff clash, Brandon Hagel dropped his gloves and struck Juraj Slavkovsky with a right hand that sent him down to the ice. The moment unfolded fast, and within moments, it became the most replayed sequence of the night. The game between the Tampa Bay Lightning and the Montreal Canadiens had already been physical before the fight began. Players on both sides had exchanged contact along the boards. The pace remained high, and officials allowed play to continue through several heavy hits. That pressure built shift after shift, and it carried into the sequence that followed. Seconds later, Hagel and Slavkovsky engaged directly. Both players dropped their gloves without delay. They squared up near the play, and the exchange began almost immediately. Hagel stepped forward and delivered a right hand that connected clean. Slavkovsky fell backward to the ice right after contact, and the officials moved in quickly to stop the fight. Video from multiple angles shows the punch landing without obstruction. The contact point was clear. Slavkovsky did not continue the exchange after the hit. The officials separated both players and halted play. The sequence lasted only a few seconds, but it shifted attention across the arena and broadcast coverage, and that drew immediate reaction.
You get hit, so what? You're going to have to take a punch sometimes to get back up and fight again, and to his credit, was able to do so.
Reports describe the moment in direct terms. One account stated Hagel lands one punch, KO Juraj Slavkovsky. Another described it as a one-punch knockout. The language used across reports remained consistent in describing the speed and outcome of the exchange. The footage spread across platforms within minutes of the incident, and that increased the reach of the moment. Slavkovsky remained down briefly after the fall. Medical staff and teammates moved toward him as officials maintained space around the scene. He was able to get up under his own power shortly after. The stoppage allowed both benches to reset, but the focus remained on the aftermath of the hit, and that held attention across the broadcast. The Canadiens bench responded after the sequence. Players remained engaged physically in the following shifts. The Lightning maintained their pace as well. The game did not slow down after the incident. Instead, it continued with the same level of contact, and that kept both teams locked into the same approach. Crowd reaction was immediate when the punch landed. The arena responded with a sharp rise in noise as Slavkovsky hit the ice. That reaction carried into the stoppage. The replay on the scoreboard repeated the moment, and the response followed, each showing, and that reinforced the impact of the sequence. Across media coverage, descriptions stayed focused on the outcome. The phrase, "absolutely huge right hand," appeared in reports describing the strike. Another account noted Slavkovsky was knocked down in a fight against Brandon Hagel. These descriptions remained consistent in presenting the sequence without variation, and that shaped how the moment was reported. The timing of the fight also mattered. It occurred during a playoff setting, where each shift carries added weight. Physical play often increases in these games, but this exchange stood out due to its speed and result. The moment did not involve a prolonged fight. It ended almost instantly after the first clean strike, and that made it distinct. Officials maintained control after the altercation. No additional penalties were issued beyond the fighting majors. The benches stayed separated. The game resumed without escalation into a larger confrontation. That limited the incident to the two players directly involved, and that kept the focus contained. The replay continued to circulate after the game. Clips appeared across multiple hockey platforms. Analysts reviewed the mechanics of the punch and the reaction that followed. The sequence became one of the most shared moments from the matchup, and that extended its visibility. Slavkovsky returned to the bench after the stoppage. His shift status changed following the incident. Coaches managed ice time after the event. The Canadiens adjusted their lines as the game progressed. The Lightning continued their rotations without major change, and that reflected how both teams handled the moment. The sequence added another entry to playoff physical play this season. Similar incidents occur each year, but not all carry the same immediate impact. The combination of a clean connection and a quick fall created a moment that stood out. That distinction drove repeated coverage, and that kept attention on the play. As the game moved forward, the score and remaining time regained priority. Yet the earlier exchange remained part of the ongoing discussion. broadcast commentary referenced it during later stoppages. The moment stayed within the narrative of the game, and that kept it relevant through the final minutes. 3 goals, 1 playoff game. And suddenly, the entire NHL is watching a different player. Juraj Slafkovsky didn't just score, he forced a shift in how he is being talked about across the league. Reports started changing within hours. Analysts pointed to one moment that altered everything. But what followed after that hat trick raised even more attention.
Now, not just how he deploys him, whether it's a power play, first line, second line, he can drive it. But look at this. Vasilevsky 3 times up against a PK that's 3rd in the league. So 3 different spots that he scores from on the power play. Unpredictable.
The moment came in, Game 1 of the playoff series for the Montreal Canadiens. Juraj Slafkovsky scored 3 goals in a single game. This marked his first playoff hat trick. The goals came during active play and were recorded across different phases of the game. Each one contributed directly to the team's offensive output, but the reaction after the game focused on more than just the score. Slafkovsky was deployed in key offensive situations throughout the game. His ice time reflected trust from the coaching staff. He was present in scoring areas and maintained positioning near the net. Reports described how he converted chances created during structured plays. The Athletic stated that he delivered when it mattered most, placing emphasis on timing and execution during playoff pressure. Before this game, Slafkovsky's development had been tracked closely. He was selected 1st overall in the 2022 NHL draft. His early NHL seasons included periods of adjustment. Analysts followed his progress in areas such as consistency and decision-making. The TSN profile showed gradual improvement in offensive contribution and increased involvement in team play. That trend was already visible, but Game 1 added a new level of output. During the playoff opener, Slafkovsky's role was not limited to finishing plays. He contributed to offensive zone pressure. His line generated repeated entries and controlled possession during several shifts. These sequences created multiple scoring chances. 3 of those chances resulted in goals credited to him. The structure of the Canadiens' offense supported these opportunities, but the individual results stood out. Attention after the game shifted quickly from the result to the implications. Opposing teams began reviewing Slafkovsky's impact during Game 1. A player scoring 3 goals in a playoff opener becomes a primary focus in defensive planning. Reports indicated that adjustments would be made in coverage and matchups. This response was tied directly to his performance, and it began immediately after the final whistle. The Athletic also highlighted his physical presence during the game. It noted how he used size to protect the puck and maintain control in contested areas. This aspect of his game had been observed before, but in Game 1 it appeared alongside efficient scoring. The combination of strength and finishing ability was identified as a key factor in the outcome. That combination became a central point in analysis following the game. Teammate involvement also played a role in the sequences leading to each goal. Slafkovsky was part of coordinated offensive plays. His line maintained pressure in the offensive zone and created repeated scoring chances. These chances came from structured puck movement and positioning. The hat trick was recorded within that system, but the individual execution remained the primary focus in coverage. The performance also triggered a shift in how his role is being described. Before this game, discussions often centered on development and progression. After Game 1, the language in reports began to change. The Athletic referred to the moment as an arrival point, linking the performance to expectations for top draft selections. This change was based on the timing and output of the game. TSN data continued to support this shift with measurable trends. His ice time had increased over recent games. His involvement in offensive plays had also grown. The hat trick added a high-impact event to those trends. It provided a clear data point that aligned with his upward progression. Analysts began comparing his current output to earlier stages of his career, and that comparison showed a clear difference. The Canadiens' overall structure also influenced the outcome. Their offensive system created space and movement in the attacking zone. Slafkovsky positioned himself in areas where scoring chances were likely. His ability to convert those chances was reflected in the 3 goals recorded. The team system provided opportunities, but the finishing was credited to individual execution. The timing within the playoff series continued to shape the narrative. A Game 1 performance sets the tone for the rest of the matchup. Opponents adjust quickly, and players who produce early often face increased pressure in following games. Slavkovsky's performance placed him at the center of those adjustments. Defensive attention is expected to increase, and that shift is already part of ongoing analysis. The Athletic included a direct statement linking the performance to expectation, noting that this is what top picks are expected to do in big moments. This quote connected the hat trick to a broader standard used across the league. It placed the performance within a category reserved for high-impact playoff contributions, and that connection continued to shape how the game is being discussed.
Yeah, I feel fine. Obviously, it's progress, and there's a timeline, and you kind of have to follow that. So, but all in all, I feel pretty good, and it's just one day at a time.
When was the first day you were on the ice? We were told you were going to be on the ice by yourself.
How was it? Or
how was it, and when was it?
Yeah. It was. When was it? It's a great question. Early last week.
Okay.
It was the first time, and just progressed from there, got better, and it feels pretty good right now. But obviously, there's many steps still to go.
Leon Draisaitl just broke his silence, and what he revealed is shaking the Edmonton Oilers at the worst possible moment, as the playoffs are right around the corner. His words did not confirm a comeback. They raised serious doubt, the team says. They are ready. But one key detail changes everything. And now the biggest question is no longer about winning. It is about who will even be on the ice. Leon Draisaitl addressed the media as the Edmonton Oilers prepared for the Stanley Cup playoffs, but his update did not confirm a return. Instead, it introduced uncertainty around one of the team's most important players. He confirmed that he has resumed skating, but only in a limited capacity. He said, "I feel pretty good, but there is a timeline, and you kind of have to follow that. His recovery is progressing, but it is not complete." He explained that his first time back on the ice came earlier in the week. Since then, he has continued to improve step by step. However, he also stated that there are still multiple stages left before he can return to full competition. The Oilers have not provided a confirmed date for his return, and his comments supported that position. His availability remains uncertain, and that became the central issue.
I don't know. We'll see. Obviously, there's steps that I have to follow, and there's certain things that I have to be able to do, and I'm not there yet right now.
The focus shifted quickly to the start of the playoffs. When asked about Game 1, Draisaitl did not confirm that he would be ready. He said, "I do not know. We will see. I am not there yet." Right now, that statement made it clear that he has not reached full readiness. It also confirmed that his return depends on meeting specific physical and performance conditions, which are still in progress. He also addressed how the injury is being handled. He made it clear that not all injuries can be pushed through. He said that some situations require long-term thinking, not short-term risk. Medical staff are involved in every step. Decisions are being made carefully. The process includes both physical recovery and on-ice evaluation, and that slows down any immediate return. Draisaitl gave a direct explanation of the injury itself. He said, "This is not an injury that you force anything." With that statement confirmed that rushing back is not part of the plan. He also said he will reassess his condition later in the plan. Weak, depending on how he feels, he could return at the start of the playoffs or later in the series. No final decision has been made. He also noted that the team has shown strong stretches of play. He said there has been some really good hockey during this period. This indicates that the Oilers are still competing effectively even without one of their top players. However, he also acknowledged that consistency is still developing. That leaves room for improvement before the playoffs begin. Draisaitl explained that this style of play is something the team has been working toward all season. He said it is what we have been searching for all year that connects recent performances to long-term team goals. It also shows that the Oilers are adjusting their game as they prepare for postseason competition. Even while not playing, Draisaitl remains involved with the team. He said that watching games from the outside is difficult. He explained that it becomes more intense when games carry higher importance. However, he also noted that it is not easy to provide constant input from that position. The game looks different from outside the ice, and that limits how much he can influence during play. He said that if teammates ask for input, he will share his view. Otherwise, he allows them to play without interference. This reflects a balanced approach to leadership. He remains present, but does not disrupt the flow of the team that approach. keeps the focus on players who are